Game of Thrones fans split on the most hated character, but there's no wrong answer. While there can be only one ruler sitting in Westeros' Iron Throne, many could claim the role of most hated * nearly 6 years after the controversial finale. Game of Thrones, and with House of the Dragon now carrying the torch for the franchise, fans are still passionately debating one of the show's most engaging questions: who deserves the title of Westeros' most despicable villain? Recent Reddit thread in the Game of Thrones community has reignited this discussion, revealing that while Joffrey Baratheon, Jack Gleeson, and Ramsay Bolton Ewan Rian the pack of loathed antagonists, the spectrum of hatred spans widely across the show's ensemble. The thread, which generated hundreds of responses, demonstrates how the series' complex characterization created villains that resonated differently with viewers, from scheming politicians to sadistic torturers, with many fans presenting detailed arguments for why certain characters earned their particular enmity. The Reddit conversation began with user Bebo_Bunty declaring they hated Shae Sybel Kekili, Tyrion Lannister's Peter Dinklage former lover, even more than the notoriously cruel Joffrey Baratheon, calling her an entitled piece of work. This controversial opening sparked immediate debate, with many commenters quickly expanding discussion to include a wide range of contenders. Joffrey Baratheon remains a perennial favorite for most hated, with Reddit user 111tjus praising Gleeson's performance. They cast his part perfectly. He just looked like an entitled little BTCH. Ramsay Bolton emerged as another leading contender, with multiple commenters describing him evil incarnate and noting his calculated sadism made him more frightening than Joffrey's impulsive cruelty. As Reddit user Theflying Piggies explained, where Joffrey was no doubt a psycho, his evil often felt like it was bred from entitlement and immaturity, while Ramsay felt sadistic on a whole other level. Beyond these frontrunners, the thread revealed a surprising diversity of answers. Littlefinger, Pettier Baelish Aegon Gillen received significant mention for his manipulation and betrayals, with user Downtown Bad 5 specifically citing his responsibility for the deaths of numerous Game of Thrones characters. He was directly responsible for deaths of Jon Arryn, Ned Stark, Lysa Arryn, Joffrey, Roose, and was responsible for starting war between Starks and Lannisters. Cersei Lannister Lena Headey maintained a steady presence in the discussions, while Stannis Baratheon Stephen Dillon was frequently mentioned specifically for burning his daughter Shireen at the stake. The High Sparrow Jonathan Pryce, Euron Greyjoy Palu Aspic, Walder Frey David Bradley, and Craster Robert Pugh all received multiple nominations, each representing different types of villainy that resonated with viewers. Interestingly, several fans expressed disdain for later season Bran Stark Isaac Hempstead Wright, reflecting the controversial reception of the character's storyline in Game of Thrones' final seasons. What makes the perfect love to hate character in Westeros? The Reddit thread reveals a fascinating distinction in how fans categorize their hatred. Some characters like Joffrey and Cersei were described as ones fans loved to hate, villains whose scenes were compelling despite or because of their reprehensible actions. As Reddit user Kit President noted, "I love to hate Joffrey. Ramsay genuinely freaked me out." In contrast, characters like the show's version of Euron Greyjoy were described as simply frustrating to watch, with the same user lamenting that he made every scene he was in worse with his presence. Didn't do anything hard enough to actually seem scary. This distinction highlights what made Game of Thrones villains so effective when they worked well: believable motivation combined with exceptional performance. The most hated characters often had clear psychological profiles that made their villainy comprehensible, if not justifiable. Cersei's protection of her children, Littlefinger's class resentment and unrequited love, and even Joffrey's upbringing under Robert and Cersei all provided context for their actions. Several users specifically mentioned the quality of acting as crucial to their hatred, praising actors like Gleeson, Rian, and Headey for creating truly detestable yet three-dimensional antagonists. The thread also highlights how the show's adaptation choices influenced character reception. Several comments contrasted book and show versions of Game of Thrones characters, particularly noting how Shae's characterization differed significantly. Between media, in the books, she is a girl of whom we don't even know if she was really a prostitute before Bronn took her to Tyrion. She is naive and instinctive. In this series, thanks to the bullshit of girl power and forced romanticization, they created a somewhat hateful character, wrote Reddit user Dinosauro85, underscoring how adaptation choices shaped viewer responses for all the criticism of the show's final seasons. The lasting impact of these characters demonstrates how successfully Game of Thrones created memorable antagonists who continued to provoke strong reactions. The diversity of responses also reflects the show's sprawling narrative and moral complexity. Unlike many fantasy series with clear heroes and villains, Game of Thrones presented characters operating in various shades of gray, with even the most despicable figures occasionally displaying sympathetic qualities. This moral ambiguity also extended to supposedly good characters. Several commenters mentioned disliking Catelyn Stark for her treatment of Jon Snow or Daenerys Targaryen for her increasing self-righteousness, highlighting how the show complicated traditional notions of heroism and villainy. Game of Thrones is available to stream on Max. House of the Dragon Season 3 is expected to premiere sometime in 2026 on HBO and Max. Martin's books, including Fire and Blood, are available now in print, digital, and audiobook formats.